Bien, bonjour tout le monde et merci d'être ici à cette rencontre avec Christopher Priest. Alors, Christopher, bonjour. Alors, Christopher, c'est toujours un plaisir de vous recevoir en France. Avec la France, vous avez une très belle aventure depuis des années, depuis par exemple le Monde Inverti, qui avait été chez nous une véritable révolution, qui avait provoqué un accueil incroyable pour le jeune auteur que vous étiez, à juste titre. Et depuis, c'est une histoire qui se poursuit et qui va se poursuivre encore l'année prochaine, puisque l'année prochaine sera publié chez De Noël votre très beau roman The Adjacent, ainsi qu'un recueil de nouvelles aux éditions Le Bélial. Alors, Christopher, on va parler tranquillement pendant une heure. Alors, vous avez dit un jour dans The Quiet Woman qu'une biographie, c'est avant tout une vie. Et pourtant, souvent vous dites qu'un auteur ne doit pas se mettre, ou ne peut pas se mettre dans son œuvre, mais qu'il y est tout entier. C'est-à-dire, quel est le rapport entre un auteur et son œuvre, entre l'homme et l'écrivain, sachant que par exemple en France, on a trop souvent tendance à confondre l'homme et l'œuvre. Par exemple, en France, on est persuadé que Winnie l'ourson a été écrit par un petit ours. Qu'est-ce qui, chez vous, qu'est-ce qui, chez vous, rentre dans vos romans de Christopher Priest?
Hello. First of all, I wish to apologise for not being able to speak French very well, and I hope you can understand me and follow me. Xavier is talking about biography and the presence of the author. It would be a lie to say that there is no author in the novel, but on the other hand, I always think a novel should be a work of the imagination, and therefore, in a sense, it's abstract. It's a construct. It's something artificial made by the author. On the other hand, it would be wrong to say there's nothing of the author in there. And in my case, I've never consciously written any autobiography in any of my novels, except that every now and then you get a problem where there's something goes wrong, and I think, what would I do in that position? How would I resolve it? How would I react to that? And that's really the only test I have. I suppose another way of doing it would be to say, how would my friends do it? Or how do I think it could be done? But basically, I would never describe a situation that I have been in.
Je sais pas, il y a un petit problème de traduction, quelqu'un traduit, j'ai rien dans mon casque déjà. Alors, vous aimez beaucoup Graham Greene, vous aimez beaucoup son autobiographie, Une sorte de vie, et vous en parlez assez régulièrement. Dans son autobiographie, Graham Greene dit combien est importante les premières lectures chez un auteur, et il dit aussi qu'un auteur, c'est le romancier, c'est celui qui doit s'oublier pour écrire. Alors, quelle est chez vous la part de vos premières lectures et quelle est la part de votre oubli, de votre imagination?
I don't know how well Graham Greene's autobiography is known in France. For me, it's a very important book because it's the only book I've ever read which describes exactly what writers do. And I got a lot of inspiration from it, and I often go back to it and look at it because it's so true. And true books are rare. And he tells a story, for instance, about a time when he was diagnosed with a serious illness and he had to go to hospital. And in those days, the hospital wards were large rooms with beds all down both sides. And it was a men's ward. And he describes how, while he was in there, a boy was brought in. by his parents, and the boy was put into one of the beds, and the parents stayed for a while, and then the parents left, and then suddenly there was an emergency, and all of a sudden a team of doctors appeared, and the curtains were put around this boy's bed, and the parents were summoned back, and they came in, and all of a sudden the mother started crying, and the father looked really upset, and he describes how one by one, all the men in the ward, all the beds, one by one, they put on the earphones so they could listen to the radio and block this out. And he said, I didn't, I listened. He said, I thought one day this is going to be useful to me. And he came up with this memorable phrase that in the heart of every writer there is a splinter of ice. And I thought that how true that is, that you go through an ordinary life, you experience things that everybody else does, but you can never quite turn off that need to know what's going on, to see feelings, to understand things.
Oui, tout à fait. Ce morceau de glace dans le cœur, c'est quelque chose que vous avez aussi repris. Alors, d'un autre côté, vous dites souvent, ça apparaît dans différents entretiens, que vous découvrez votre livre alors que vous l'écrivez, qu'un livre a besoin d'être écrit. C'est quelque chose que vous dites assez souvent. Ça, vous êtes votre lecteur, votre premier lecteur?
Yep. Yeah, I think it was the poet W.H. Auden who said, "How do I know what I think until I see what I've written?" And that's very much, for me, one of the problems for writing a book for me is actually starting. And I'll go for day after day, week after week, thinking, I must start work, I must start work. And I don't start because I don't know how the book is going to go. And then one day I do actually write something. And at that point, it becomes clear. The characters come off the page and the idea becomes coherent. And so really the thing to do, what writers do, is write. And we should be writing all the time.
Voilà. Et alors, écrire, sont des choix, évidemment. Vous avez, on va en parler, évidemment, un rapport très proche avec l'histoire. Et pourtant, vous dites aussi que quel que soit l'intérêt qu'a l'écrivain pour l'histoire, il n'est pas un historien et qu'il peut prendre certaines libertés avec l'histoire au grand H, l'histoire des événements, à condition de faire arriver le livre qui devait être écrit. Alors, quel est votre rapport avec l'histoire que vous aimez? On la voit à travers le Prestige, la séparation. Comment peut-on jouer avec l'histoire?
Always forget who said it, that those who ignore the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. And so, although we write fantastic literature, we set stories in other worlds, we deal with things which haven't happened yet. You cannot avoid what we've known from history. And the older I get, the more I'm aware of that, and how much I enjoy reading about historical events and seeing parallels with, not repetitions, but things where people were confronted with the same sort of problems that we're confronted with today. And it suggests a way through it.
Alors, dans votre postface aux extrêmes, The Extremes, vous dites que vous n'écrivez pas des romans à thèse et vous donnez les thèmes qui vous sont chers, qui sont par exemple la mémoire, l'identité, la géminité, les doubles. Est-ce que ce sont des thèmes que vous vous imposez ou est-ce que ce sont des choses que vous retrouvez presque naturellement, qui reviennent naturellement?
Oh God. There are subjects that interest me, and they come back because I always feel that I can't deal with them enough. For instance, you mentioned twins. My own children are twins, but my interest in the twin effect came long before I actually had twins, so it was very lucky to have my own twins. Unfortunately, my twins are the wrong sort, that there's a boy and a girl, So they're two very different people. And my real interest is in the identical twin. It goes on. I remember during the Iraq War a few years ago, the news came out that Saddam Hussein had 12 doubles, 12 men who looked like him. And I thought, what a terrible job that would be, to look like Saddam Hussein and know that there were 11 more doing your job too.